Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. You may notice, well, I'm sure you'll notice a bit of a difference between the visual of this vlog and the ones I usually do, and the sound. There's a reason for that, and the reason, and the wall behind me, and it's a closer view, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm sitting down. The perspective is a little off. That's because I'm in New York City. As I've mentioned in the past, as those of you who've been watching these vlogs know, I lived in New York for about 40 years, and I moved to Cordova, Tennessee. But today I'm back in New York for a week. I wanted to go back and visit. This will also be my first visit since moving in January, so I'm seeing it as a visitor this time. So that's going to be interesting too. I'm hoping to show you some scenes of the city, some different locations. I hope I can do that. Right now, I'm doing the Airbnb thing. I'm in an Airbnb apartment. I'm recording here because I wanted to get a video out because I enjoy doing it for you folks. I hope maybe I'll have some New York stuff to put into it. But today, it's very impromptu, and one of the big problems is that I wanted to talk about the Jovanovic testimony in the Senate hearing today, but unfortunately I was on a plane all day. Well, going to the airport on a plane and then coming into New York and then figuring out how to open a lockbox to get the key for my Airbnb apartment. I missed the whole thing. I'll try to watch it over the weekend. I'm recording this on a Friday. If I can watch it, I don't know if I want to spend half a day or a whole day of my New York trip watching the House testimony, so I may have no comment on it. But I did bring a list I made back in Tennessee of topics to talk about that didn't depend on a particular news item, so that I would have something to share with all of you if something does happen, because I have my laptop with me and I'll be working and following news starting on Monday. So I may do some up-to-the-minute things. But for now, it's a good chance to talk about things I've wanted to talk about that I haven't had a chance to do. So what I want to talk about today is education loans. The sky-high price of college these days. I'll give you a little story here because I went to college. My college days were a long time ago. We're talking about probably before a lot of you who are watching this were even born. I started college in, I think, 1969, and I finished in 1973. The main point is I was working part-time, $2 an hour, and with that $2 an hour, I was able to pay my way through college. That's how cheap it was in those days. That shows you the moral of the story, what happens when the government tries to provide things for free and make them cheaper. What happens instead, and it's the same thing with health insurance, I'm very sure, that when the government is paying for something, then people don't pay much attention to the cost. And I'm not so much talking about the students because they know they will have loans to repay, but I'm talking about the administrators, the colleges. They figure they can charge up and up and up and up because the government's paying for it. It's not the student paying for it. It doesn't have to be geared to what the student can afford. So you have these students that are coming out of college, owing a lot of money, and this is the important part, they come out without marketable skills. They study, wokeness, feminist theory, Afrocentrism, subjects that, even literature, you should study those things, but in my day, the art appreciation, the humanities classes, literature, English, those were all part of a larger curriculum. You were expected to go into something that would be marketable, at least hopefully. You didn't have courses like, I understand there are entire courses on Marvel Comics, on comic books, and on all kinds of cultural phenomena. That doesn't get you a job. That does not help you pay back a loan. Now, if you have a job, you're earning an income, you don't have a college loan, and you want to take courses like that in your spare time, yeah, be my guest. But for somebody looking for a career who's going to be faced with a loan to pay back, that is very bad. I am so happy that wasn't the case in my day. Another problem is that even if you do learn a profession, let's say law, if you want to be a doctor, there's plenty of work for you, I am sure, these days. But if you want to be a lawyer, there are cases where I understand now that there are law schools that are actually closing down because these law students, they graduate, they're not finding jobs. People may think they're going to, well, I used to be a word processor. I was a temporary word processor, well, permanent one for a while. I worked for Smith Barney a long, long time ago. But then I was a temp word processor, working one night in this law firm, another night in another law firm. So I understand. I worked in a lot of these big, big law firms that are international, multiple offices. They have a high floor in a big building, and they have 25-year-old kids fresh out of law school starting at $125,000, $150,000 a year. And was I jealous? Yeah, very jealous. Another story, I try not to be jealous, but that's not the situation for most people. For most law graduates, they're going to be working in the Midwest or some other place at a lesser well-known, let's say, law firm where the salaries are not going to be anything like that if you can even get a job, because you have, say, a website like LegalZoom where you can do a lot of your legal stuff on the internet. There's just not as much work. And this gets to the subject of vocational training, because there are a lot of jobs, construction jobs. The construction industry is desperate for workers, and those are good paying jobs. Also, auto mechanics. I read that auto mechanics start at $80,000 a year. That is nothing to sneeze at. I just think some people feel a stigma about manual work and vocational work, and I'm telling you that you should be proud of that kind of work. That is high-paying work, skills that are needed. Welders and pipe fitters, all those kind of professions, those workers are needed. So you should consider that kind of work, even if you're a straight A student in philosophy or something else. If there's not going to be work for you at the end of the line, at the end of your college education, you should really go into something else, and then you can use your $80,000 a year salary to study on your own time, whatever you want to study, and maybe you can get, well, that's how it used to be. When I was young, you would learn a profession, and then if you wanted to go into something else, you could look for work doing something else, but you would have something to fall back on. You would be supporting yourself, and you would not be facing all these loans that you cannot repay. This gets to the point I want to make today. This is what I would call tough love. I would have the government, if the government is going to grant these loans, the government has a right, because the government is us, government of the people, by the people, for the people, right? Government paid for by you and I. That's the main point. If we're going to, because it is us, ultimately us, if we're going to lend somebody money for their education, we have a right to get paid back, and in fact to be paid back with interest, unless somebody is so brilliant that it's worth our investing in that person. But then that person probably would go out and get a great job that would pay a lot. So I'm saying the government, in conjunction with providing these loans, they should do something similar to the Obamacare website. There's the Obamacare website. I've never used it. I hate Obamacare. But the idea is that there would be a national database where people, businesses looking for jobs could post their job openings. They would all be there, and then the government would have a list of jobs, of professions, categories that need people. Then you would only grant loans for those positions. So if somebody comes along to you and says, I want to study the history of comic books, you would say, well, no, we're not going to give you money to study that because the odds are very small that you're going to be able to pay it back. I would also tell somebody who wants to go, well, let's say you want to be a lawyer. Let's say you want to be a lawyer. You've wanted to be a lawyer all your life. You have top grades and you go to apply to the government for a student loan to study law. The government can look at this database, see that there's no demand for lawyers. There are more lawyers looking for jobs than there are positions for lawyers. And then the government would say, well, I'm sorry, we are not going to lend you money to go to law school, but there is a need for plumbers. We will lend you money to get vocational training to learn to be a plumber or a tool and die guy or an electrician, whatever. And if they don't want to do that, then that's fine. You're on your own. Pay for your own education. If you want the taxpayer to lend you money for college, then you're going to be a welder, or you're going to be a plumber, or you're going to be a pipe fitter. You're going to be what we want you to be if we're paying for your education. And that's a vlog for today. Let's see if I can make this work while I'm holding. Yeah, I think I can while I'm holding the camera in one hand. Thumbs up if you like this vlog. Share it with anybody that you think would also like the vlog. Got any comments? Put them in the comment section below the vlog. And subscribe, especially subscribe. And most important of all, come and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you. And let me give you a warning. It's going to look like this for the next, I would say, 4 vlogs. I'm here for a week and then I will be back in Tennessee and back to the usual broadcast quality such as it is. Until that time, well, no, until I see you again. That will be soon, probably tomorrow. And until that time, bye.